Hello, and thank you for visiting the SEDM.org website. This video training session will show you how to use and view and print Adobe Acrobat documents downloaded from the SEDM website. Throughout this presentation, we will use Adobe Acrobat version 10.1.3, which is what you have in front of you. So this presentation will be useful for people who have Acrobat version 10.x and later. If you happen to have an earlier version of Adobe Acrobat, such as version 9 or 8 or 7, then you should be using an alternative training session that we prepared for those versions. What you have in front of you is Adobe Acrobat version 10.1.3. This presentation will last approximately 45 minutes, so you might want to make yourself comfortable, get a drink, and hit the pause key as you watch this presentation so you can try some of the things that we're demonstrating for you on the screen. Throughout this presentation, we will use certain instructional techniques. Let me demonstrate. The mouse cursor, as you can see, has a yellow circle emulating from the tip. And that circle is intended to make it easier for you to follow the movements of the mouse. Likewise, whenever we click on an item on the screen or in a menu, you will hear a clicking noise and you will see a red circle emanating from the mouse pointer outward. This will help you know when we have pushed the left mouse button. The document on the screen in front of you is the Government Instituted Slavery Using Franchises document, Form 05.030, downloaded off of the SEDM website. Most of the documents available through the SEDM.org website are formatted in Adobe Acrobat, and we use version 7.0 or later format in order to publish all of our documents, even though we produce those documents with the latest version, namely version 10.1.3 at this time. Consequently, if you have an older version of Adobe Acrobat, you should be able to go all the way back to version 7 and still read all of the documents on the website. Adobe Acrobat is available in 3 different versions. There's the free reader, or Adobe Reader, available from adobe.com, which you can download for free and install on your system. There is also the retail versions, the 2 retail versions of Adobe Acrobat, namely Acrobat Standard and Acrobat Pro. The version that's in front of you is version 10.1.3 of the retail version of Adobe Acrobat Professional, or what's called Pro X. If you are using the free reader, then your screen should look very similar to this, but the PDF production tools will be disabled, and other professional tools such as OCR, character recognition, document locking, copying and pasting text, and so on. Suffice it to say that if you wanted maximum functionality from the Adobe Acrobat so you can do the most things, obviously you ought to consider the professional version. The professional version is the most expensive version of all the versions that Adobe sells. The version in front of you, the Professional or Pro X version, at this time costs about $250. If you want the standard version, which does a subset of the Pro capabilities, but also has a lot of additional features beyond the reader, then I believe that particular version will cost you about $100. The Acrobat application that's in front of you is not the only way to view content on our website. The free reader and the standard and professional versions, all three of those will install a plugin into your web browser so that you can view PDF documents directly from the browser window. So you could do much of what you see here on the browser version of the Acrobat Reader that gets installed along with the version that you install. And what you would see in your browser window would basically be everything from this horizontal line here all the way down within your browser. The menus at the top, File, Edit, View, Window, Help, those do not show up when you're reading Acrobat documents from within your browser. For larger documents, we recommend using the full version of Acrobat, whether it's the Reader, the Standard, or the Professional, to view the documents locally on your hard drive, because that way you will preserve our precious bandwidth on our site, and your load times will be much quicker. And you will have the documents available if you are unable to reach our website. This particular document, for instance, is approximately 4.9 megabytes. So if you are on a slow dial-up link, it will take a long time to load if you try to view it from within your browser. Nearly all of the PDF documents available through the SEDM.org website are copy protection, implement copy protection, and they are password locked. And by that, we mean that you cannot select or copy text out of the documents and paste them into your own document to reuse the text. Likewise, you are not able to edit the content of the PDF and resave it. That security mechanism, the password locking and copy protection, is a security feature built into Adobe Acrobat that we have deliberately activated. And we do that for several reasons. The most important reason is that people like to take our documents and edit them and add their own crazy ideas, and they might even leave the references to us and our website on there to make it look like we wrote the changed version of the document, which could bring reproach on us. And so we lock all of our documents, especially the more important ones, to prevent people from changing or adding their own ideas to our documents, for the protection of both us as well as our audience, because sometimes after people make the changes, they'll try to email those changes around to other people as a way to slander us. There have been occasions even when governments have tried to modify documents of tax people or people they don't like, and then made it look like those people wrote the changed versions to slander them. So please don't try to contact us to ask us for the password to the document so you can unlock it. Please also don't contact us for the password so that you can use the document with your voice reader. Some people like to have the accessibility features enabled on the document so they can enlarge the print because they can't see, because they have poor vision, or because they want to play it in their MP3 player and they have a little application that can read the text out loud while they're driving. Please don't ask us for any of those capabilities, because we aren't going to enable them, for the very same reasons that once we allow that, then people once again can edit or change or steal our intellectual property. Version 10 of the Adobe Acrobat, which you have in front of you, has a considerably simplified interface. The toolbars have been simplified so that they can't be changed very much. and it's a much cleaner interface. So we recommend using the latest version of Acrobat Reader if you can, if it's available to you. And that will ensure that you will always be able to read our documents no matter how old the document is that we have. If you try to download an older document on our website, or even a current document, and you're using the old reader, be forewarned that you may not be able to read the whole thing, or you may get an error while you're trying to read it, because the version that we use, which we said was version 7 or later, compatible with version 7 or later, that version of the Acrobat file format may not be compatible with the version of the reader that you have if your reader is really old. So please remember to go back to the Adobe site, adobe.com, and download and install the latest free Adobe Reader to make sure that you will always be able to read documents off of our website with a minimal number of errors. If you do have errors reading our Adobe documents and you would like help, you can go to our support page, and you can find our support page here. And here's the SEDM website. You can click on support, and there's a section devoted to problems accessing, viewing, or reading files on this website. And here are the items that pertain to problems reading or displaying Acrobat content. Items 4.1, 4.2, 4.4. This video training is contained in version 2.6 of the current version of our support page, as you can see, using Adobe Acrobat Documents. And that section covers both version 9.x and prior, and version 10.x and later, which is the one you're seeing now. So let's go back to Adobe Acrobat. The main thing we want to show you is how to open, how to read, and how to print the documents. The interface on version 10 is very simple. As you can see, there's a minimal number of controls. The display we have open here is presented the way that you will see all of our documents open. We always open them and cause them to open by default with what's called the bookmarks on the left. These bookmarks function just like the table of contents in a document, and in particular the table of contents in this document is right here, table of contents. So whenever we click on one of these items, we will go straight to that section. So we can very quickly locate a section of interest to us and read that particular section. And this simplifies using the documents on the website as a reference tool in addition to a training tool. Because sometimes you don't want to read the whole document, but you want to find a section that pertains to the subject that you're learning and click on it over here to go there. The area on the left here also displays, in addition to displaying the bookmarks, which is this symbol here, also displays the pages within the document. If we click on this, there's a bookmark presented, a little image presented for each of the pages in the document. And if we click on one of these, it will take us to that particular page. And all these pages are in page sequence. The particular page that we're on at any given time on the right hand side over here, that page is indicated right here. So we're on page 3. Now that would be Acrobat page 3. The numbering on the actual document may be different, because for instance this might have been a table of contents and we might see page I or page II, in which case the page numbers of the document in the lower right corner of every page would not match up with the Acrobat page numbers. So if you want to refer to a specific page, please make sure you refer to a document page number or the Acrobat, which is down here, or the Acrobat page number, which is in the upper left corner. And then right next to the page number is the total number of pages in the document. This particular version of the document has 502 pages. So we have bookmarks right here. we have page thumbnails, and this would be a list of attachments. There aren't any attachments in this document, so we're not going to cover that. And then these other things on the toolbar here, this is a pointer in the selection tool, and the selection tool will be used ordinarily to select text within the document if you wanted to copy and paste into your own documents. But as we said, all of our documents are configured so that they don't allow copying the content of our documents for protection of our intellectual property. So even if you use the selection tool over here and you select what it is you want to rip out of the document, it won't let you copy it into the clipboard. You can right click on this and it simply will not allow you to copy. You could try to do an edit copy, but it won't allow you to. Let's see. See, copy is grayed out because document security is implemented in this document. So the next toolbar item over here, the hand, allows you to navigate around the documents. Likewise, let's go back to the bookmarks. Likewise, if we click with the hand on the right hand side, we can now use our scroll wheel on the mouse. I'm using it now. And as we move the scroll wheel, we can scroll through the document. Over here, the plus and the minus allow you to zoom in and zoom out of the document. And this is the zoom factor that you're in right now, 51.8%. And these two little arrows over here next to the page number allow you to change the page that you're on. So we hit the down arrow, we went from page 1 to page 2. Likewise, we can go back. We're not going to cover most of this stuff up here. The only thing you really need to know about is the printer, the print file icon right here. If you click on that, you can print the whole document. Now, ordinarily, the bookmark view, you'd start with the bookmark view, and then after you locate the section that you want to go to, you would turn off the bookmark view. And you would do that by clicking on this little collapse right here. And that will maximize the document on the screen so that you aren't distracted with a lot of other stuff. You may have noticed that the screen in front of you the text is rather small down here, and it may be hard to read, but that's not a problem at all, because if you have a large monitor like we do, a 27-inch monitor, and you have it in HD resolution and it's a widescreen, then you can set up your Acrobat so that it will display the pages just like they would if you had a book open. You can set it up so that you can have the pages side by side, and you can go into what we call read mode so that it looks just like a book in front of you with two pages side by side. The way to do that may not be immediately obvious just by looking at the default setup we have here, but if you right click over here on the toolbar and then you go to page display, you will see some other options you can check here. Namely, you have the two-page view. If you go to the two-page view, then we just added it to the menu. And now that it's on the toolbar up here, we can click on it. And once we click on it, then you see two pages side by side, just like you would if you were reading a book. And if you want to use even more of your screen to display the pages and less to display all the controls, there's another mode up here. We can click right here on this little view file in read mode, and there. Now it turned off all of the toolbars so that the largest portion of the screen is used up with the actual pages of the book. So now we can page through this just like we were reading a book. And if we had a large monitor, an HD resolution, 1080p monitor, 27-inch like we have, then we could read this just like a book. And in fact, the text would be larger than a book. So that even if we had poor vision, even if we needed a magnifying glass to read this thing, if it was a book, it's easier than a book to read. And we can zoom in on the text as much as we want in order to read a portion of the page using the zoom tools, but we would have to turn those back on. Now once we are displaying it in what they call the read mode, we can go back to the regular mode by moving the cursor down here, and there's an X, show the main toolbar, to turn the toolbar back on. Likewise, we have other navigation options that will disappear after we move out of this area. Watch. There, see, it moves away. So if we move back to this area, we get our page navigation tools back. Page up, page down. We get our print. We get our save. We get the page number. We have the zoom stuff again. And if we want to bring the toolbars back like we had before, all we have to do is click on the X and they come back. Another very helpful way to toggle these two modes, rather than going up to the upper right corner here and clicking on the View File and Read Mode button and then coming down here to remove it, is to use the keyboard. We like to use the keyboard all the time. We prefer it more than the toolbars because it's much easier and more intuitive to use. So right now we have our hands on the keyboard, and if we hit Control and then H, as in hotel, then it will toggle the mode. Control H turns off the toolbars, and let's hit Control H again, and it turns them back on. So that's how we go in and out of the read mode to view the document. The next thing you need to know is how to locate text within the document. In other words, how to do a search within the document. You can do searches even though all of our documents are copy protected. And the way we do that is once again from the keyboard. So what we do is we put our hand on the Control key, and then we hit F, as in find or foxtrot. And up here in the upper right corner we notice a new box opens up, and that box will allow us to find things, phrases, words, even whole paragraphs. And so let's, for instance, find this. That's someone. So we'll type that in. And then we come over here and we can click on Find Next. There it is. It found it. So if we very quickly want to find something, and by the way, if we want to search for the next occurrence of that phrase, you may have noticed up here on that little arrow is it told us Find Next, F3. So we can use the keyboard F3 key, which we're just going to hit now, and see if it finds it again. So it's searching all of the pages in the document, and we probably won't find that text again. And if we don't, then there it is. See, it couldn't find that phrase anywhere else. So that's the only occurrence of that phrase. Likewise, if we wanted to find the previous occurrence of this text that we just searched for, we can hit the back arrow here, Find Previous, which is Shift F3 if we want to do it using the keyboard. So we can do Find Forward, the right arrow key, and we find Previous, the left arrow key, and then when we're done searching, we can click on the X here and close the find. That's all there is to it. It's very simple. The beauty of using the electronic version of our books is that you can very quickly and easily have the very latest version of the book available to you for download. We don't have to worry about a physical distribution of our inventory, and that reduces our effort. Likewise, you can keep older versions of the books in a single directory, so you can go back to older versions when you need to and compare. And since we have this search function, then we don't really need an index in order to locate things. We can find them very quickly, much more quickly than if we had to thumb through the pages, for instance. So let's page down here to past all the tables of authorities and tables of contents to the document itself, so we can show you the basic structure. Every one of our pages has these little tiny numbers on the left here. Those are called line numbers, and the reason we put line numbers is to make it easier for you to comment on the content of our document. So for instance, if you're reading through a document and you have a question, or you want to make notes on what you read so you can go back and do something else with that information, then all you have to do is basically, let's zoom in here, hit the plus key, is let's say you wanted to refer to these 3 lines here, and you found an error in the document. It's very easy to record the errors in a little list of errata, which you might want to have handy on your desktop of your computer or with your pen and paper. As you read through the document, you can make notes of errors you find, because we very much appreciate all the feedback that our users give us on errors in our documents. As a matter of fact, one of the main reasons for publishing them electronically and disseminating them so widely is to solicit public comment to find any inaccuracies or errors that you might find for the benefit and protection of everyone. So we also emphasize that it's a mandatory provision of our member agreement that if you download and use these documents, then you have an obligation to bring the errors to our attention as on a regular basis. You're not allowed to just ignore the errors that you find. You have to let us know. Now let's say that you wanted to document an error. How would you do that? Let's say there was an error in this particular paragraph. Well, it falls on lines 10 through 12. So in order to submit an errata to our website, you would need to know several things. And your errata that you submit to our website must indicate all of those things. Namely, let's scroll down here. Namely, first of all, you have to know what document number that you are reading. So you would say government instituted slavery using franchises. Then you would indicate the form number, form 05.030. Then you would indicate the revision date, the version that you're looking at. And then you would indicate the page number, page 49 in this case. And then you would say that lines 10 through 12 on page 49 contain the following error. And then you would list whatever the error is. So please be extremely careful to mention all of that information, because we get a lot of people who give us feedback and who neglect one or more of those very crucial things. They may forget to mention the revision date, so we don't know what version they're commenting on, so we can't find the text that they're referring to. Or they may omit to mention the form numbers. We don't know which form number that they're talking about. So please include all those elements in your errata, which once again are the form name, the form number down here in the lower left corner, the revision date in the lower left corner, the page number, and then the line numbers, the specific line numbers containing the error, and then the actual error itself. Very important. Those of you who practice law or litigate in courts will recognize and be familiar with this tendency to put line numbers on the left-hand side, because line numbers must be indicated on most legal pleadings, because the judges use those line numbers to refer to specific statements in the pleadings. So let's change the page mode again to 1 page. We can go back to 2 pages. We can go back to read mode up here, upper right corner. We can hit the X to go out of read mode, just reviewing all the ways to display and change the display of the pages. And if we wanted to print, we just click on this little print symbol. And if we wanted to open another file, we could click here. The last thing you might want to try is you might want to try extracting pages from the document so you can reuse them as an exhibit or use them in another thing. And we don't provide the ability to extract separate pages or a range of pages from the document because of the way we have the copy protection or the document security settings initialized on all of our documents. So most of the tools that would implement that would be in the Tools menu over here. So if we clicked on Tools, we can see that all of the page manipulation tools have been disabled. So we can't rotate, delete, extract, replace, crop, or pages, or split the document. All of those functions have been disabled, just like the Insert from File function. So there's a very limited range of things that you could do in our documents because of the document security settings that we have. Another thing that some people want to do is they will want to highlight, that is, use the commenting features built into the retail versions of Adobe Acrobat. They don't appear in the reader, but they're in the retail versions. For instance, there are features to turn on the commenting toolbars right up here. You can add comments and highlight text. Well, you can see those features are disabled as well. We disabled them in all of our documents so that you are not able to do that either. And some people contact us to ask us, can you please, enable the highlighting feature? I really like to highlight just like I can in a book. And our comment to that, our response to that is, if you want to emphasize or take notes, then what you really should be doing is opening a copy of Notepad and just refer to the document number, the page number, and the range of lines in order to make mental notes in the actual separate document for yourself. That's how we write down and record errata in the document as we find it, so that we can report it back to the original authors. And speaking of reporting back to the original authors, let's go back to our website right here and let us show you where you would go in the forums in order to report an error you found in our documents. So we click on Forums up here on the menus on the top, and then we would scroll down here to the bottom, and we will go to section 9.4, which is the errata report. So we will click on this, and then we would click on Start New Topic. We would log into the forums in the upper right corner. We would sign in. Of course, we're already signed in right now. And then we would click on Start New Topic, and then we would post a list of errata for the document. We want to emphasize that when you compile your list of errata, we prefer that you read through the entire document and that you compile a single list of errata. We don't want to see a bunch of onesie twosies every day or every other day of little things you found as you were reading. We want to see one list that's submitted to us only one time at the end of reading the whole document, or as far into it as you intend to go. And that will minimize our effort, because every time people send us errata for a particular document, we have to go in and make the changes. We have to rebuild it as a PDF. We have to repost it. We have to update the revision histories for all the documents on the website for every single change we make. And if we had to do that for every single minor little change, then the list of revisions would be unmanageable. And speaking of revisions, let's go back to the home page, and let's go back to Forms and Pubs page, and we're going to show you where that revision history is. So we come up to the upper left corner to section 1.1 under General, and we click on the right hand side and we scroll down, and you will see that right down on the right hand side here you will see two items here, two forms. Form 01.008, which is the SEDM Resource Index, which is an index of all of the forms on the website. And then below that is a revision history. And the revision history is where we record all the changes down to the minutest level of every change that we make to the website, to the forms on the website. And so we like to keep this document here as short as possible. Right now, it's over 140 pages long. And that's a history of all the revisions to every document that's on the website. And there are hundreds of them. At this particular time, this particular form Form 01.009, SEDM Resource Revision History, lists over 1,100 forms and growing that are on the website. So we have a tremendous job to keep track of all those forms, and so please minimize your contact with us as far as the number of submissions you make, and compile all of them for each into a single document for all the changes for the document that you have errata on. Thank you very much. So let's go back to the document again, and let's turn the bookmarks back on, and let's go back to the cover page, scroll back up right here, and let's go back to the single page mode again. There we go. This concludes our training session on how to use and view the Adobe documents on SEDM.org using Adobe Acrobat version 10.x and later. Thank you.